Hey, Myrna or Sophia, can you guys hear us okay?
This is Sophia. I can hear you, Lua.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Sophia. This is Sheree. Just doing a sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
It was quiet, but I
Yes.
did. Thank you.
Sophia, do you have me? This is Alex Fuller.
Yes, I do, Alex. Hope you're doing well today.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. Today is December the 1st, 2020. This is a City of Georgetown, Texas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I'm asking Myrna Garcia, our staff liaison, please call the roll so we can officially establish which commissioners are in attendance. Myrna?
Good evening. Aaron Albright. Cherie Heinzman.
Here.
Kayla McCord.
Here.
Marlene McMichael.
Here.
Travis Perthius.
Here.
Jay Warren.
Yes, ma'am.
Ursel Brashear.
Here. Okay, thank you. So we have 6 commissioners present. We have a quorum. I'll now call the meeting to order. And I want to say welcome to everyone to this regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This is a pretty short agenda this evening, so I'm going to skip a lot of the introductory comments that I typically make. And I want to start with Sophia, if you would walk us through the process for how this meeting will be conducted this evening.
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. Sophia Nelson, Planning Director. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being in attendance. If just a few announcements as we start this meeting, both for commissioners and for those in general attendance. Please keep yourself on mute until you are ready to speak. Please clearly state your first and last name when making a motion, or just letting us let us know who is speaking. For commissioners, if you have technical difficulties, I have placed my office telephone number in the chat, and I can help you get reconnected so that we can continue to keep a full quorum on the call today. For applicants, if you are present and need to be given presentation abilities, please raise your hand using the function on the bar at the bottom of the Zoom meeting, and I will give you permissions to be able to present as you need to. For the public who is wishing to comment, we will start with those on the phone first. Please unmute yourself and state your name. We will then go to those that have any hands raised, and then finally we'll move to those that have typed any comments in the chat when the chair identifies that a public comment period is open. Chair, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder for everyone that tonight's meeting is being held as a teleconference. The complete agenda and all supporting documentation for each of the items to be dealt with this evening have been posted on the city's website, and they are available for public review. That takes us to our agenda item A, which is a public wishing to address the board. The City of Georgetown opens the window for anyone wishing to address the Planning and Zoning Commission at this time, and they ask that you complete an application notifying the city of your wish to address the commission. And we ask those comments be directed for things that are not on this agenda. And you have to let the staff know a week ahead of time so we can get you properly posted. That being said, we don't have any persons who've signed up to speak this evening, so we'll move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is just the portion of the meeting where we have multiple items that can be acted on with a single motion. Tonight we have items B through X on the consent agenda. And I would ask if there are any commissioners who have any items on the agenda that they want to abstain on. Would you please let me know at this time?
Ursel, this is Travis. I have one item to abstain on. It is item L. Yes, item L.
Okay. Any other commissioners who have items that they would like to abstain on? Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, anybody have any item on the consent agenda that you would like to pull and move to the legislative regular agenda for individual discussion? All right, is there any members of the public that have any items that they'd like to pull and move to the regular agenda? Not seeing any. I have a question, a routine question here, but I know that there has been some comments about the possibility of an amendment to the minutes. Is that something that, Kayla, you would like to address?
Yes, that on, I believe it was, and quite honestly, I don't have them open in front of me, but I believe on item V, if I recall, there was, staff had made a motion or had recommended during the meeting the modification of that item to recommend approval rather than disapproval, because the items of concern within that case had been addressed properly and resolved. So anyway, I think we did vote to approve that item, although I think it somehow got in the minutes that it was disapproved.
Okay, so what you're recommending is that this would be on page 7 of the minutes and item V, where it actually what was to read the motion was to approve item V as opposed to the stated motion to disapprove. So am I stating that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, any objections to modifying the minutes to read approval as opposed to disapproval for that one item in the minutes? All right, if not, then I would, the floor is open to a motion.
Kayla McCord moved to accept the consent agenda as presented with modification of the minutes outlined in item B as recommended.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second to that motion?
Marlene McMichael, second.
Okay, thank you, Marlene. Any discussion? All right, I'm going to call the roll, and you will be calling with Commissioner Perthius abstaining on item L.
Will Commissioner Perthius still vote for on this without that? Okay.
Okay.
Sherry Heinzman,
Yes.
Kayla McCord,
Yes.
Marlene McMichael,
Yes.
Travis Perthius,
Yes.
Jay Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Ursula Brashear.
Yes, so the consent agenda passes on a 6-0 vote. Okay, that takes us to our legislative agenda, and on we have one item that's up for discussion this evening. Before we start, just a real quick note for the public, anybody who's not familiar with our process. We will announce the item. We'll give the applicant, or the staff will give the presentation to the commission. The commission will, if they have questions, we'll address those to staff. Then we'll go into an opportunity for the applicant to address the commission. At the close of that section, we'll open a public hearing, and anyone who's here would like to speak on this item will have an opportunity to do so. At the conclusion of the public comments, then that item will move back to the commissioners, and we'll wind up making a recommendation to the city council. So with that being said, let's call item Y, and this is file number 2020-23-REZ. Andriana, good evening. Would you read
Good evening, commissioners. So as mentioned, this item is it's a public hearing and a possible consideration for a zoning map amendment to rezone just a little bit under 5 acres, 4.6 acres of a property that's located at just south of the intersection of Shell Road and State Highway 195 from its current agriculture zoning district to the general commercial zoning district. The subject property highlighted in red in the screen in front of you. As mentioned, it's located just south or southeast of that intersection of Shell Road and the State Highway 195 roadway. It is primarily surrounded by undeveloped and vacant property. As you can see, there's also a mix of both property that's located within the city limits as well as the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And while it is the surrounding the property in the property itself is primarily vacant and undeveloped, you can see that there are some commercial types of uses, such as a self-storage facility across the street from Shell Road. You have like a trucking business just located a little bit south of this property. And then you have a church just further south along Shell Road as well. The property is located within a community center, future land use destination, which is one of those types of destinations and nodes that we primarily see at the intersections of major roadways. And it is because of being located right at that intersection, it's also surrounded by other property that are within that same land use category as well. However, as you can see, surrounding that node, we do have a mixed density neighborhood future land use destination towards the south. And then across the street from 195, you have the neighborhood future land use destination. Both these are residential destinations that encourage primarily single family residential, but with your mixed density neighborhood, you'll see also a mix of both attached and detached single family duplex, and even some low density multifamily potentially. And so the community center, as mentioned earlier, it is primarily located around arterial roadways and at intersections, such as is the case of the subject property. But it is also envisioned to be able to support some neighborhood supporting commercial uses, such as retail, professional office, some personal services types of businesses that will be able to serve the surrounding residents of that area. So it's a little bit more sort of like a local type of a basin focus. But however, it does also encourage some supporting residential uses, provided that we are able to maintain a ratio of 80% non-residential to 20% residential. And so in looking at this area, as you may recall by looking at the aerial map, this subject property is primarily surrounded by a lot of undeveloped property. And so when we look at the existing conditions as to where right now that node falls within the ratio that is envisioned for this node, we are currently right now at 12% non-residential development. We have 11% of that area that has been entitled for some of that residential use. And then the grand majority of the remaining of that property, it falls within sort of like either this agriculture type of a land or land that is unentitled, because right now it's not designated, nor has it been entitled for any type of use. So there's the potential of being able to go into one of the two uses. And so when we look at the zoning districts, and you can see kind of like where that ratio falls under, you see the subject property being zone agriculture. It is also surrounded by some agriculture property, primarily to the north, as well as to the east. And then you see some general commercial zoning district to the south, as well as to the west. You may actually recall the property to the west that recently went through this zoning map amendment process and got rezoned C3. I believe it was earlier this year. And then you see further up at 195, you see this residential zoning district category, which is actually a planned unit development that includes a mix of both multifamily development as well as single family development and some commercial uses within that PUD category. And so when we look at the general commercial zoning district, it is our most intense commercial zoning district because it is intended to be able to serve not just the surrounding neighborhoods and the surrounding area, but also the region as a whole. And so because of that, certain uses that may be permitted there are uses that may generate high levels of traffic, which is the reason why it's always most appropriate when it is located along arterials and along freeways that may be able to sustain and support that amount of traffic. In the blue box, you see some of the development standards of this zoning category, including the maximum building height of 60 feet, your minimum setback requirements, and you can even see how those setback requirements will increase whenever that zoning district abuts a residential single-family zoning district. And so some of the uses that are permitted by right in the general commercial zoning district include a car wash, include dry cleaning services, general retail, general office, governmental postal office, and so forth. Some uses that may be permitted with limitations, meaning that those uses are subject to additional standards, include a community center, include a dance hall, a limited contractor services type of use, office showroom, office warehouse. And then some uses that would require for that approval by the city council for that use to be allowed there include uses such as auto repair and services, a correctional facility, flea market, a lumber yard. So those are types of uses that will require additional approval by both PNC and the city council. Staff reviewed this proposed request based on the approval criteria for a zoning map amendment, and we found that it complied with the criteria. Specifically, we found that we had a complete application to be able to do our analysis and be able to provide an adequate review and a recommendation. We also found that it was consistent with a comprehensive plan. While the general commercial zoning district allows for a more intense commercial use than what is typically envisioned in a community center node, because of the location of the property and because of the uses that may be permitted in that general commercial zoning district, we found it to still be consistent because it will allow and will encourage those types of commercial uses that may be able to support the surrounding neighborhood and surrounding area, such as it is envisioned by the community center node. We also found that it promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the city and the safe, orderly, and healthful development of the city. Again, because this property is located at the intersection of two major thoroughfares, we have the intersection of a major arterial and a freeway. That is typically the locations where you want to see the most intense zoning district, so that later, as property develops further away from that intersection, you reduce a little bit on that intensity and that density. And because the property immediately to the south is already zone C3, as well as the property to the west across from Shell Road is zone C3, having this property zone C3 as well will be able to provide that orderly transition from the intersection and not provide any sort of gaps or jumps in intensity of uses. Also, when we look at the ratio, as you may recall, a lot of this property, because it is undeveloped or unentitled, it doesn't fall within one of those residential or non-residential ratios category. However, by rezoning this property into the general commercial zoning district, we see that the non-residential ratio increases about 3%, bringing this node further into in line with what's envisioned in that area on that breakdown in ratios categories. We also found that it is compatible with the present zoning and conforming uses of the nearby property. As mentioned, you have existing property that abuts it, that it's already zoned general commercial, so it'll be consistent with that. And also some of the surrounding uses, including those uses that are in the ETJ, which is a little bit more intense in nature. It was also, the uses that would be permitted in C3 are found to be compatible and in line with those existing and present uses. And then the subject property, based on the size that it has, based on the location that it has, where it's located, it is suitable to be able to accommodate all the uses that are permitted in the C3 in accordance with its development standards, including parking, buffer yards, setback requirements, and so forth. As required by our codes, we notify all property owners within a 300-foot buffer of the subject property, as well as put notices in the newspaper and on this property. And today, staff has received no written comments in regards to the request. And so, as mentioned, this is a public hearing and possible consideration to rezone approximately 4.6 acres from the agriculture zoning district to the general commercial zoning district. And with that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Andreina. Questions from commissioners to staff on this item? I do have one question I would ask you. And that would, if you would go back and this, I just need to understand these ratios again, go back to the drawing that shows the area that you determined this 141 acres. Can you show me that map again, please? Okay.
So, yeah.
So when we're calculating the percentage of the area to be dedicated to either residential or non-residential use, that 141 acres is the area inside that circle?
Yes, it is the area inside the circle, and in some circumstances, in order for us to calculate it, we also included the boundaries of the property to be able to determine where that boundary is.
Okay, the reason I'm asking the question is because a big chunk of that area actually includes the right-of-way for State Highway 195.
Correct.
And when we're calculating potential uses, are we overstating or understating the impact of this? If you took the right-of-way out of those calculations, what would that do to your ratio?
We can certainly recalculate. It's a very good question. Did not run the numbers in that way, and we can certainly run the numbers from that angle. I will say that we do also take into account the zoning districts to be able to determine those categories. And in a lot of the cases, sometimes the zoning districts will also go to the center line of the right of way. But it's in some cases it can have an impact. And in other cases, we found that it will still be in line because it's providing for that. It's still providing for those residential or non-residential uses that are envisioned for that area.
Okay, but I would be surprised if you extracted the right-of-way, if that total acreage didn't drop by almost 40%. And so this project's not going to materially impact your ratios, but it does. I just wonder about the validity of establishing ratios, first of all, when you don't have a designation for right-of-way, because the right-of-way is not going to change.
Right.
And so when we get into areas like Westinghouse Road or other places where we're bumping limits, right-of-way calculations may overstate the available area we've got to work with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. I think in this particular case, if we were to take, as you mentioned, Chairman, if we were to take that right-of-way portion out, we would also not include it in, when calculating the ratios of what actually exists out there. So you're right, the 141 acres will significantly reduce, but then the ratio calculations will be based on that remaining acreage and not on the overall. Absolutely.
I agree. And all I'm saying is if we're going to start using ratios as some sort of magic indicators about whether we're within the boundaries of what's good planning or not, we ought to at least be accurate in the calculation of what's actually being changed and what the usable area is in that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
No, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? All right, if not, is the applicant present would the applicant like to speak? All right, I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so we're going to move to the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to address this application? Sophia, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
That's correct, sir. I do not see any hand raised. We do have 2 attendees, but they have the ability to unmute their mics should they want to speak.
Okay. Well, if anyone here would like to speak, now's your opportunity to do so. Unmute and you have your window of opportunity. All right, not hearing or seeing anyone, I'm going to close the public hearing, and Commissioners, is going to move to us. What is your recommendation to the City Council?
Jay, I recommend that we approve it as presented.
So you're recommending approval as presented?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a second?
This is Marlene McMichael. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Marlene. Any discussion, commissioners? Okay, we have a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the application to rezone this property. Myrna, call the roll, please.
Sheree Heinzman,
Yes.
Kayla McCord,
Yes.
Marlene McMichael,
Yes.
Travis Perthius,
Yes.
Jay Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Ursula Brashear.
Yes. Okay, so the motion carries 6-0. That takes us to item V, that are discussion items. Sophia, we'll start with you. Any updates or announcements?
Thank you. Just one announcement. I wanted to let you know that we have hired a new planner. We have had a vacancy for a little bit since, a little bit. I was trying to think of the exact date and I can't remember it. So it's been a while that we've been short one planner. His name is Ryan Clark. I don't see him on the call right now, but Ryan comes to us with experience from the city of Tyler. He's a Texas A&M graduate. He'll be supporting Andrena in the current planning area of the department. And
I'm here. Can y'all?
Oh,
I don't know why the camera's not going. But.
Well, Mr. Clark is with us, and we look forward to. Oh, there's his face. You could see him, and you'll be seeing him soon. As here in the department, we ask everybody to jump in with 2 feet, and so you'll see him at an upcoming meeting giving a presentation. So, just wanted to share that with the commission. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome aboard, Ryan. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for taking me on.
Okay, let's updates from other boards and commissions. GTAB is moving forward. I think this next meeting will have the pretty much wrap up the recommendations for the impact fees. That be proposed impact fees will be going to council for their consideration. And UDC, anything to report from that committee?
Andrena, may I ask that you give an update?
Yes, absolutely. If I can. So we have actually the last few months with the wonderful help and support of Steve, particularly Steve McKeown, our landscape planner, and Ethan Harwell, our senior planner. We have been working the last few months on some revisions to our tree preservation and landscaping standards. Really more focusing on some cleanup items that needed to do and be able to incorporate some of the practices that we've actually been doing, as well as provide additional flexibility and options on how to best meet for those requirements. And so we are getting very, very close to wrapping up those discussions with our UDC advisory committee. And then we will be bringing it to the Planning and Zoning Commission next month, so at the end of January, if I remember correctly, so that we can present to you and go over with you what those proposed amendments are, what we have been discussing, and what are some of the recommendations that we would like to be able to move forward and present that to both the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council for consideration. And so that is some work that you will be seeing very soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any of the alternate members who are here this evening, you have any questions about the meeting procedure, or any of the items that the commission addressed this evening? Okay, not hearing any. Just a reminder that our December the 15th meeting will again be a teleconference, and it will start at 6 p.m. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Kayla McCord, move to adjourn.
Okay, Kayla, thank you. Second.
Marlene
Jay, second.
McMichael.
Marlene got you, Jay.
Oh, that's all right. I don't care who gets me.
All right. Myrna, call the roll, please.
Sheree Heinzman,
Yes.
Kayla McCord,
Yes.
Marlene McMichael,
Yes.
Travis Perthius,
Yes.
Jay Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Ursula Brashear.
Yes. So thank you very much. We are adjourned at 6:30 PM. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.